guest is someone who has spent more than 20 years working in technology roles, Mr. Prashant Padamkumar Amargol.
My major takeaway was that ego is the biggest bug in your system.
That was a surprisingly honest reflection, Mr. Prashant. It gives a clear picture of what those early years actually felt like.
Here, what I want to emphasize is that once the team has the clarity over the activity, it becomes really easy for us to kind of like go ahead.
Hi everyone, welcome to FaceTime with Leaders powered by Directors Institute World Council of Directors. I am Charu Mehra, and today's guest is someone who has spent more than 20 years working in technology roles where things have to work every day without excuses. He's worked with companies like Barclays, Citi, and now BP. He builds and runs systems that deal with huge volumes, tight deadlines, and very real business risk. If something breaks in his world, it's not just an error message. It affects customers, operations, and sometimes the entire business. Right now, he's a staff engineer at BP India, and over the years, he's also led teams, handled critical deliveries, and worked across banking, energy, and digital platforms. So today, instead of just talking about success, I want to talk to him about what kind of career actually looks like from the inside. The pressure, the trade offs, the mistakes, and the decisions people don't usually see. Joining me today is Mr. Prashant Padamkumar Amargol. Mr. Prashant, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Prashant, you've spent more than 20 years working across banking, energy, and large scale technology platforms, often in roles where the responsibility is high and the margin for error is small. When you think back to early days of your career, what's something about leadership or working in organizations that genuinely surprised you? Something you didn't expect when you first stepped into the professional world?
Very interesting question, Sharu. So my philosophy at my earlier career was majorly about a leadership where he would be acting as a maestro, who would be making sure that all the instruments would hit the perfect note. But in time, what I have learned is it is more of the bear strategy, where there will be a lot of heat, there will be a lot of pressure, and you have to shield your team from getting all those pressures so that they can open up their mind and try to solve the crisis that is there in their hand. So in my earlier days, when I was working as a developer, there was a very critical deployment that I was working upon, and a junior developer came in and said that, "Hey, Prashant, there is a bit of data mapping issue that I see," but I was pretty confident that no, I have been making a lot of scripts, automation scripts that are running very fine, and the deployment will be successful. And the deployment went on, and in that day, I was sitting almost for 14 hours in the office. And it was just that ego where I was not able to listen to the junior developer, and ultimately I had to learn this lesson. So my major takeaway was that ego is the biggest bug in your system. So that's something I fairly remember in my earlier days. Uh, the way we I learned up from there is agile should be the process, should not be just the process. It should be a spirit. So we have a stellar backend team, we have a stellar front end team, but if they are not coordinating or communicating, there will be a lot of gap in the requirement analysis and how they interpret the requirement, right? So now when this happens, it basically crashes the system. And this exactly happened in integration environment when we built up all that. So we basically changed the strategy out here where we said that, okay, let's go for the hurdle where we bring on the value and what we want to deliver,
Right.
rather than what are we just taking off all the Jira tickets.
Right.
So here, what I want to emphasize is that once the team has the clarity over the activity, it becomes really easy for us to kind of like go ahead with a smooth and a non bug free production releases. So that's something which I learned in my 20 years. And yeah, so that's how it is.
Wonderful. That was a surprisingly honest reflection, Mr. Prashant. It gives a clear picture of what those early years actually felt like beyond the
Correct.
responsibilities and the titles. And
Yeah.
listeners usually don't hear leaders open up about that side of the journey when they talk about, you talked about the ego side and the learning side of it. So thank you for sharing that with us so honestly.
Sure.
Over the last few years, technology leaders have been pushed to deliver two things at the same time: move fast and never break anything important. From your experience in banking and now in energy, how do
Yeah.
you personally decide what must be stabilized first and what can be improved later, especially when business teams want everything immediately?
That's an interesting point, Charu. So, when you see around, everybody wants to move at 100 miles per hour, but the stability is a vanity when you are moving towards the cliff or something like that, right? So, unless you don't have the right brakes or something, you would be kind of like having a lot of issues in your journey.
Right.
So, whenever I was working in one of a personal banking rollout where there was a critical bug that we introduced in production, and it was just a small thing about a database lock that we missed out, and it kind of like brought down the whole system and the business continuity affected. So there, this small issue that we could have earlier identified it, and then we could have moved to production, was c- easily missed out because we were under high pressure to deliver it in a stipulated period. I learned one thing from there, that I should not be giving an aggressive yes to all the things that I have been working upon. Rather, I would be considering more about a systematic approach to how I can stabilize and what is exactly needed. So, what I came up with is the three bucket filter system that I am still working upon. These three systems are the trust and the security. So, when we go to production, is that trust or is the security intact and there is no compromise in that? The second thing that I came up with is the flow and the operation. If I'm making anything going to production, the flow and the operation should not affect in any case. And the third thing is about the convenience. The convenience is something which you can say just like, is it nice to have or is it a must need? So that basically helped me to refine the production deployment, production releases, or the things that I'm putting into production without hampering the business continuity altogether. So I'm a big fan of Mr. Satya Nadela's philosophy, where he says that resiliency is the key for all the things. So the stability you have to have, the security you need to, it should be there, and then you have to accelerate. So I want to give a real life example. Like, let's say there's a car, it should be stable. Your wheels, your tire pressures, everything should be stable. Your seat belt should be on, and you have to check whether the brakes are correctly working fine or not. and then you can go ahead and hit the racetrack, right? So in this way, we should also implement all these things when we are trying to work with technologies and try to stabilize, even if there is a high deliverable pressure.
Wow, wow. The way you described breakdown speed versus stability brings so much clarity to the debate most leaders struggle with. And it is rare to hear it explained with both precision and a lived experience. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that with the audience.
Thank you.
You've received recognition at BP for cloud cost optimization and automation. And many organizations struggle with rising cloud bills after migration. So, from
Mhm.
your experience, what practical mistakes do leadership teams make that turn cloud into a financial problem instead of a business advantage?
It's a really nice question. And to be very frank, every organization right now is struggling with this kind of a situation. You know, this is all about the mindset that we want to kind of like change from every every company says that, okay, I want to be a cloud first company, but they don't know how to do the consumption of those resources that are going on. And the mindset that we want to do, have a change, is basically about from the consumption to the ownership. And I'll come to this, how we can achieve that, right? So imagine you are going to a marriage, and you have a huge buffet out there, and it's all about kind of like having unlimited, unmonitored consumption, that you whatever you want. But when it comes to the ownership, right? So you have the health ownership, and when you are looking at the buffet and say that, okay, does this really affect my health? So you would be very choosy about what you are going to eat and how much quantity you are going to eat, right? So that's basically is the mindset that we have to change. And what I see is the primary objective of every company is to go for a cloud first. But for me, I would say that it should be basically a value first rather than a cloud first, because whenever you start measuring things, it creates a business value for you, right?
Right.
So there are three things again that I had already implemented in my previous journey. It is about so there was a cost optimization initiative that I was working upon. And what I saw that, okay, there are a lot of unnecessary services, or or you can say any resources that they are utilizing, and there is no restriction on that. So when I sit with my team, I started giving them a dashboard which would say, okay, these are the cost for the resources that we are using, and this is the thing that we want to reduce.
Right.
Now, then once the developer came in and said that, hey Prashant, there is one configuration that I want to change, and I think that will save a lot of cost for the company. Well, I said, okay, go ahead and do that. And what happened was it saved almost $5,000 for that particular month. Now, if you imagine that developer, he got a pretty good dopamine hit, because it basically made him feel that I have contributed something to the company. And that's about the gamifying the efficiency about it, right? And so then I started to make them the owner about that particular product, right? So what I started telling them, that make sure that whatever the account you are working upon, there are always cloud accounts, different accounts, right? So imagine if those cloud accounts are tied to your credit card. Now the whole thing changes, right? So, which resource to use? What are the things that I have to really use for making this product run in production successfully? Is something that they started to think and dwell upon, right? Now, there is one more analogy about this, right? So, you might have heard about this precision farming, right? Where a lot of sensors are there, a lot of climate control things are there. What they do basically is they all depend upon the sensors, stating that how much I have to put the water, how much lights I have to put onto the plants so that they can give the best yield in that particular period of time. Similarly, what I feel is your developers are those sensors, and those sensing uh, people should be very much uh, capable of owning that thing, and rather than just consuming the resources that they are getting. And that's where the major takeaway was from for me, is that make the people a business feel like business owners, and then the cost consciousness culture dwells into your company.
Wow.
So
I really like the way you give examples where laymen can also understand what you're trying to say. So that's wonderful. And what you just shared really clarifies the problem many leaders face silently.
yeah.
It is simple,
Correct.
but you can see the real impact of leadership decision on cloud costs.
Yeah.
And the example that you gave from your experience makes the challenge feel so real. So thank you for being so, thank you for explaining it in a way that a layman can also understand what you're trying to say. So thank you.
Yeah.
Imagine you've just taken responsibility of a large technology platform where cloud costs are climbing. Delivery
Okay.
timelines keep slipping.
Mhm.
Incidents are becoming more frequent, and the engineering team is clearly tired. But
Okay.
leadership wants visible improvement within a few months.
Mm.
Before touching the architecture or starting any major rebuild, what are the first three things you would focus on to stabilize the systems and the team?
Okay. You have really put me on the spot. All right. So let me recollect something. Okay. All right. So yeah, you know, uh, let's say if there is a ship and it has been caught into a storm, what will you do in that case? Whether you will basically look for a map, or whether you will see that, okay, this is the situation in front of me and I have to get sail through this particular storm, right? I think the answer would be more on the second part of it. So it's something more where you can say that the leadership has to become as a triage medic. Okay, so what does this triage medic means? Is basically you have to stabilize the patient before you can start any operation on that. And as you rightly said, right, I cannot go ahead and do changes in the architecture or do some major builds, and then only after 6 months there will be some visibility to that particular application or the team that I'm handling, right? So I remember I had stepped into one of the high stake project, and where there was a major blame game culture, where people were kind of like doing oversizing the servers so that there should not be any failures, which was spiraling the cost. They were also kind of like hiding the bugs that are there in the system, which is the most dangerous thing in the IT industry. And it basically also stopped them to report those particular critical issues. And that made me think that, okay, what are the things that I can improve without doing major overhaul? Okay, so the first thing that I made sure was the radical visibility. Now, we sat with the team and said that, okay, tell me what are the 20% of applications which are taking care of 80% of the business. So we identified those applications. Then what I did was I built up a dashboard and said that, okay, now tell me whenever they are failing. And it used to give me the notification that, yes, these are the applications that are failing because of any reasons, right? And then I started to say that, okay, now we know that these are the reasons why it is failing. And then we started a culture where we can say that it is safe to fail. Okay, what people used to think was, if I fail, then it becomes a really big problem for me. Rather, it it has to be in a very nice way, where people should be very compassionate about each other, and they should also be able to speak about it, or a
Right.
speak up kind of a thing. So there is a speak up policy, right? It should be a formal policy where you can say that you are protected and you are encouraged to report the systematic failures or the risks that are coming into picture, right? So that's what I started upon. So though there was not a actual formal policy, but then I started with this concept called as fail forward hurdles. Okay. Now, what we used to do is we used to regularly meet, we used to design, and then we used to basically start looking at what mistakes are there. Okay. And we focused on rapid learning and correction. So I started giving my mistakes, stating that, okay, I have made these mistakes, and this is how I learned it, and this is what the learnings are. And this made the team realize that if the leader is actually making all those mistakes, and even he is very compassionate and very open about giving all those mistakes to his team without any issues, that built up a transparency between all the team members.
Right.
Now, what this led into was we started to automate and do the right sizing. This basically cut the cost that was hunting. It was the ghost cost. Why that so much cost is coming upon? And what was the ultimate thing that happened? It was the truth that was traveling faster than the crisis, right? So we started to put on the truth in the system, saying that, okay, these are the things that I have made mistakes, and I'm fine with that. I don't blame out here anyone. So because of this, it made the team go into a much better culture where they can speak up openly rather than having a blame game culture. So here we didn't changed any kind of any architecture or anything there. It was all about the people who wanted to, who were in certain mindset, and then we brought in a framework which basically turned their mindset into being more vocal and speaking up about the issues.
Right. Right. Wow.
Yeah,
I just wanted to highlight to the audience that the way Mr. Prashant has laid out a clear roadmap that balances system stability with
yeah,
human needs. His
correct.
approach makes high pressure scenarios feel manageable and actionable. The way he prioritized team's health alongside tactical wins is really insightful. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for that, Mr. Prashant. It really shows leadership that values both people and results. All right, moving on to our segment three, that is the rapid fire round, quick and honest answers. All right,
Sure.
Mr. Prashant, let's shift gears a bit and have some fun with the rapid fire round. Quick answers, no overthinking.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, the first one. If you could switch lives with anyone for a day, who would it be?
It would be more of a global food explorer, something like Anthony Bourdain.
Uh, okay, you seems like a foodie.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What is your guilty pleasure?
Uh, I keep on watching the restoration videos on YouTube. It is something where a person takes up a 1950s machine and start working on it. There is no meeting, no pressure, no stakeholders, just one person making the broken thing work and start that particular machine. So
Wow.
that's something is a guilty pleasure for me.
Wow, that's really nice. I also like restoration videos, but
Yeah.
usually furniture restoration and painting restorations.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, next one. This one is interesting. Okay, if you could eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
This is a difficult question for a foodie. So, all right. So, I think it has to be a traditional South Indian thali. I cannot just stick with one meal, one dish out of it. But yeah, definitely a South Indian thali. It's an ultimate balanced system. You have proteins, carbs, spices, and it works in a very perfect harmony. So yeah, it all comes with a complete ecosystem served on a single leaf of banana.
That was a very smart answer, sir. You know, you covered so many dishes in one thali.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What is a hobby you always wanted to pick up but never did?
That is something where it's more about the photography, right? So you I want to capture the street life in different countries, but with my job having a lot of pressure, nothing is possible right now. But yeah, definitely, because that also teaches you to wait for the perfect and uncontrollable moment, and it becomes a lesson of patience and observation, right? So that is something I would really like to pick up someday.
Wow, that's a wonderful, that's a unique thing that you have thought about. And I wish that you're able to do that soon.
Yeah, if God
Okay.
is graceful, will definitely be happen.
Okay, moving on to the next one. If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
Uh, Yeah, it has to be something about a communication expert, polyglotism, where I can speak to anyone with their language. So let's say if your native language is Hindi and I start speaking with you in Hindi, there is an instant connect between that. And as I'm a leader working with different global teams, I would like to get to know their languages and start speaking with them in those languages to have the ultimate connect. And it also brings in the confidence to the other person, saying that yeah, he's a good guy to open up and speak up about.
Absolutely. It sort of builds a trust between two people.
Yes, correct.
Okay, the last one. What's your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
It has to be the family hurdle. So what we do is every night we sit on a dinner table, no mobiles, no TVs, nothing. We just talk about the day, whatever it might be. I make sure my two lovely daughters are being heard. They have lot to share with me. I mean, they even can't wait until that dinner time comes in. They start speaking about, oh, I did this, that. So yeah, I think something is that we generally help. It really helps me to unwind the whole day and have a memorable time with my family.
Wow, that is such a sweet thing to do. Wow,
Yeah.
thank you so much for that wonderful and spontaneous rapid fire round, Mr. Prashant. It really helped us look at the person behind the professional. So thank you for being so honest with us. So before we wrap up, I want to zoom out and talk specifically about your industry. Large technology platforms today sit at a very interesting intersection. Rapid
Yeah.
cloud adoption, rising cybersecurity risks, constant pressure to deliver faster, growing systems complexity, regulatory expectations in sectors like banking and energy, and teams that are stretched across geographies and time zones. So here is my question. In large scale technology organizations and platform driven businesses, what
Hmm.
do you believe is the most underestimated risk leaders are facing right now? Something that doesn't get enough attention in boardroom discussions, but could quietly undermine performance over the next few years.
Okay. See, when we talk about the boardrooms, right, we always think about, oh, how is the cybersecurity? How is my AI going on? And how is whatever the jargons that are there in the market, right? But for me, what is the silent risk that is there is basically we are in a danger of losing why behind the technical how decisions. I'll explain you with an example, So there was one project that I was handling, and one of the key member was basically asked to leave. And the knowledge that he had about that particular component, was also gone with him. And then when we started to have some issues with that particular component, it was a black box for us. And ultimately, it had turned into a knowledge silo. Now, this would become a problem because when the team is continuously working to fix that particular problem, and in every week they are coming in, and every week they are kind of like trying to uh, close out the or extinguish the fire that is going on, the team would get exhausted, and that would basically happen where the businesses can go into a very big problematic situations. So I'll give you an example, right? So let's say there is a small leak in where the source of this electricity is happening, right? And it has to travel around like 1,000 miles, and in those 1,000 miles we have to power the whole city. But if the leak is compounding in its in the way where it is going, we might not be able to power the whole city. So those small silo issues that are there are basically the silent risk that a lot of companies uh, are missing. Let's take another example, where let's say there is a aviation stuff that is going on, and you might have heard about a lot of big mishaps that has happened with the aviations, right? So it really doesn't start with that accident. There are a lot of deviations that are happening when there was a small issue which was been ignored, and those deviations kept on compounding, leading to a major mishap. So that's where is the major risk that I feel. And companies has to basically think that how we are going to, and that's the greatest risk, risk that that all the companies are kind of like failing to recognize. It is about how we are going to manage the complexities of the system that we have built, and ensure that the knowledge and culture are as resilient as the coding or the platform that they have created, right? So this is, I think, a lot of companies want to make sure that these things are being talked in their boardroom meeting, which I feel that it is missing somewhere.
Wow, the way you've really highlighted a risk that boards often overlook but can
Yeah.
quietly impact the performance.
Yeah.
I feel that your perspective is both strategic and grounded in experience. And
Yes.
the sort of live example you shared makes invisible risks very tangible, and it shows how small oversight can build into larger challenges over time. So thank you for
Correct.
sharing that with us. Before we close, I want to touch on something a little more personal in your leadership journey. At
Mhm.
a certain point in your career, you chose to formally step into the world of board level learning by joining Directors Institute. I'd
Yeah.
like to know what prompted that decision and how has your experience with Directors Institute changed the way you now think about leadership, governance, and responsibility beyond day-to-day operations.
Okay. So yeah. Uh, Thanks, Charu, for asking this question. In today's world, I think it is very essential to the bridge the technical authority with the boardroom strategies, right? So I need to I have wanted to have a way where I can build this particular executive IQ, that I can say. Earlier I used to feel that there is a lot of governance that is happening, and it used to basically slow down the whole process of uh, pushing all these technical things to production and going live. But now, what I think is it is not actually slowing us down. It is having the brakes on a racing car. If you can't accelerate, because you don't have brakes, then that basically slows down the whole organization. So I kind of like shifted my strategy from being pushing or making the engine to basically directing the engine and work as a rudder rather than just building the engine. And Directors Institute has helped me to rewire this. Maybe the DNA change also that you can say. Basically, it has shifted me from having the mindset of just looking at the matrix to transitioning the technical depth into the business risk, and how I can prioritize the long-term valuation and the holistic changes in the organization. Now, the biggest takeaway that I feel is basically now I can help the organization to build an enduring institute that would thrive even if you are not looking at your business. And that's something which every board really looks up for. And the Directors Institute has given me those additional feather in the cap where I can say that I can make this happen for all the organization.
Wow, first of all, I'd like to thank you for that feedback. And your journey into board level learning is insightful because it shows that even experienced leaders continue to grow. And it is inspiring to see curiosity and humility at the level that you've already achieved. So I wish you all the best for your future endeavors, sir.
Thank you. Thanks, Charu.
So this has been a genuinely thoughtful conversation, Mr. Prashant. You've shared not just what you've built, but how you think about responsibility, about systems, about people, and about long-term decision making. Your
Yeah.
journey shows that leadership isn't always loud or visible, but it's deeply felt in the way organizations run and teams grow. So thank you for taking the time to share your experience so openly with us today.
Thank you. And I really appreciate all the questions, and it really made me think and laugh. And I really enjoyed this session all with you, Charu.
Thank you so much. To everyone listening, thank you for tuning in into FaceTime with Leaders, powered by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. If today's episode gave you something to reflect upon about your career, your leadership style, or the kind of impact you want to create, then we are glad you spent this time with us. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and keep leading forward. Thank you.